recognize the voice or its owner. "What can I do for you?" He looked at the insignia. "Captain." The man was leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette. He gestured towards the makeshift hospital. "I guess you must be pretty busy." "Yes, I am. Is there some point to this?" "A shame, that. Being so busy, I mean. Not having time to relax. I bet you can't remember the last time you watched a video." "No, but I still don't see—" "You look like someone who'd enjoy a video. I've got one for you. It's so recent it hasn't been released yet. You really should see it. It's one I shot, right here." The officer gestured towards the town. "I reckon you'd enjoy it. After all, you're starring in it." Chapter 1. 2007. Coldmoor hadn't always been deserted. Once there'd been a community there, a community whose isolation bonded them. Theirs had been a peaceful existence, working lead and other ores, tending sheep or growing what they could in the bitter soil. They battled constantly against nature. The disaster that wiped them out was man-made. Even in their isolation they'd heard of the men who'd come from over the sea, brutal men who slaughtered to gain control of vast swaths of land. The invaders arrived in the middle of a spring morning when the sun was nearing its height. It was after that the rumours began to circulate, rumours that became the legend of Coldmoor. It was said that cries could be heard, carried throughout the valley on the ever-present wind. The causeway became known as the Grieving Stones, and the hitherto unnamed lakes were called Lamentation Tarn and Desolation Tarn. Legends didn't worry the angler as he arrived at the tarn, took his gear and walked to the lake. He unlocked the boathouse, climbed into a boat and rowed out to the middle. He dropped anchor, chose a fly, and commenced casting. It was 7 a.m. Faint sounds seeped through the air. The hiss of the wind channeled by the hills, the call of a curlew, the bleating of sheep. For the most part, however, the silence was absolute. The fish weren't rising. It was an hour before he felt his line go taut. Long before it broke surface, he realized it wasn't a fish. A fish would have writhed and struggled. There was no resistance, just a dead weight. He stared in horror at the obscenity on the end of his line. As he told a friend in the pub that night, "There I was, alone in the middle of the tarn, miles from anywhere, and there was this bloody skull grinning back at me." Detective Inspector Mike Nash stared out from the veranda of the bothy. Like the rest of the low building, it was painted with creosote to counteract the weather. Inside, the gas heaters were on full blast, but the room was still cold. It would be cramped, but it would have to do as an incident room. At least a few people might warm the place up a bit. If anything could be warmed up in such a desolate place. He shivered, only partly from the raw wind that whipped round the building. He burrowed deeper inside his waxed coat. They'd been there an hour, 3 of them plus a couple of uniforms. Now they'd to wait for the divers. They were taking their time. Not that Nash could blame them. Rather them than me. He was unaware he'd voiced his thoughts. The woman alongside him stirred. What do you mean?" Nash looked at his assistant. He pondered the twist of fate that had brought this handsome young woman from Belarus to England, to Yorkshire, and finally into a career in the police. "What did you mean? Rather them than me?" "Talking to myself, was I? Can't say I'm surprised in this godforsaken spot. I was thinking about the divers." Sergeant Clara Mironova stared at the dark waters of the Tarn and shivered. "I get your point. What do you think of this place?" "I'd rather not think about it. There's something eerie about it. I can't rid myself of a feeling of depression." Mironova looked at her boss with concern. He looked tired. The last case they'd worked on together had affected him badly. Hardly surprising with the outcome. She thought of Stella Pearson. Nash and Stella had been an item until Stella was injured, paralyzed by wounds intended for Nash. She could only guess at the guilt he felt. She also knew how ill he'd been before he transferred from the Met. Was this a symptom of that illness, or an example of the way Nash reacted to his surroundings? It was a strange ability.